I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
A most unspeakable charge has been brought against you.
Jacques Le Gris entered our home. He attacked me.
The accusation is false.
I am telling the truth.
The truth does not matter. There is only the power of men.
Hey guys, Smiling Reviewer here, and today we are talking about The Last Duel. The Last Duel is directed by Ridley Scott and is an epic historical drama based on a true story set in medieval France about a knight played by Matt Damon who challenges a fellow friend and squire played by Adam Driver to a duel to the death after his wife, who's played by Jodie accuses him of raping her. So yeah, straight out of the gate, this movie has some very heavy subject matter, so before I get into this review, I just want to let everyone know this movie very much takes on the issue of sexual assault and does not shy away from showing you the horrible realities of it. So anyone who doesn't feel comfortable seeing or hearing things pertaining to those topics, perhaps stray away from this movie and this review. And if that comes as a surprise to you because you thought this was going to be an action blockbuster of some sort, then don't worry because you're in a similar boat that I was. I honestly did not realize how heavy and serious this movie was going to be when I went into it, but it was such a fantastically told story that threw me through an absolute range of emotions through its runtime, and I'm really glad it was the movie it ended up being. This is going to sound a bit contradictory, but despite being a vastly different movie from it, it's very similar to the recent film Promising Young Women, in that the film's intention is to bring to light the history and ongoing injustice in our world when it comes to the treatment of women and victims of sexual abuse. But this intention is grounded in its own contained, compelling story. So firstly, I thought the way this movie was told was absolute genius. So this movie is separated into 3 chapters, and each chapter is the story told from a different perspective. So the movie begins with us seeing Matt Damon and Adam Driver preparing for a duel to the death based on the accusations that Adam Driver sexually assaulted Matt Damon's wife. And then it throws us back in time to show us the story of how we got to this point. So the first chapter is titled The Truth According to Jean de Carrouges, who is Matt Damon's character. And then the next chapter is The Truth According to Jacques Le Gris, who is Adam Driver's character. And then the third and final chapter is basically The Truth According to Marguerite de Carrouges, Jodie Comer's character, where we realize what actually happened, basically. And the structure and editing of each of these chapters was just so clever and well thought out and effective, especially for this subject matter, as in cases like this, everyone seems to have their own truths, but being able to see all of them transpire, it gives you an insight into the minds of all these characters and why they think the way they do. I especially loved how we see a lot of the same scenes again, but with minor details changed depending on whose perspective we're seeing it from and how they view themselves. For example, there's a great scene where Matt Damon and Adam Driver's characters meet again after having a falling out. And in the first chapter, from Matt Damon's character's perspective, he appears to be the bigger man who basically says, let's forgive and forget and move on. But then when you see the same scene again from Adam Driver's perspective, he remembers it as himself being the bigger man who basically says, let's forgive and forget and move on. But then when you see the scene again from Jodie Comer's perspective this time, you realize neither of them were the bigger man, and they just kind of made up these humble apologies to each other in their own heads. And in reality, they didn't really say much to each other at all. And this was another thing the film did an incredible job at. It did such a good job at capturing that jaded, toxic masculine pride that influences both of these characters. And it did this in such a great way I haven't really seen a movie do before. This movie really is about two men's blind pride fighting against each other at the expense of Jodie Comer's character. And when you realize this, the movie becomes a lot harder to watch because despite these two men wanting so badly to rise above the other and win this battle, every step of the way, Jodie Comer's character is losing more and more and more. Ridley Scott, though, the director of this movie, man, he honestly amazes me. I mean, he's definitely made some not as good movies over the years, but in my opinion, that doesn't take him off the list as one of the greatest working directors today, because he's given us such classics as the original Alien, Blade Runner, and even Gladiator. And yet, at the ripe age of 84 years old, he's still making incredible films that are relevant in our contemporary society. Not only did he beautifully direct The Last Duel, he has another movie coming out this year called The House of Gucci with Lady Gaga that looks like it's going to be a compelling hit as well, hopefully. The man is just a master at his craft, and it's awesome we're still getting movies from him. But The Last Duel was truly so well directed. Not just the story and everything, but the cinematography was gorgeous. A lot of this film was shot on location, and there really felt like there was an extremely minimal use of CGI in this movie. All of the landscapes were gorgeous, all the costume design was great, all the battles were so brutal and felt so real. It really puts you in the middle of the action, and it never feels like they're swinging fake swords or anything. And the titular Last Duel itself was absolutely thrilling. I haven't been riveted by a fight scene like that in a while, especially because it wasn't just a brilliant and thrilling fight from a technical standpoint, but in the setting of the film, it was just this major emotional crescendo where you really had no idea what was going to happen. Matt Damon as Jean de Carrouges was really great. I feel like in my head, I've always thought of Matt Damon as the funny guy, even though he's done many serious movies that he's been great in. And that's probably because I've watched so many real life interviews and stuff with him where he's just hilarious in real life. And also, Team America World Police is also partially to blame for that as well, I reckon.
Matt Damon!
So I love seeing him in these meaty, serious roles where he can really bring out his acting skills to the forefront. And he did a great job at playing this morally ambiguous character where you start off liking his character, but as the story goes on, you start thinking maybe he isn't the person I thought he was. Jodie Comer I thought was an absolute powerhouse as Marguerite de Carrouges, and man, I'm excited for her film career to start blooming because she's already showed a great level of range between this movie and her much more light-hearted role in Free Guy that also came out this year. She gave such a haunting performance in this movie though, in that her emotional delivery of some lines, or even just her facial expression in reaction to awful things that are said to her, they all felt so realistic, and she really captured that feeling of complete helplessness that victims of these attacks tend to feel. And I'm really glad she got a role as big and challenging as this one because she really pulled it off. Adam Driver as Jacques Le Gris was absolutely fantastic as well. He did a great job as well at playing a character who we as the audience know he's completely in the wrong and is awful, but the film and his own performance also makes you understand why he himself truly believes that he is innocent and didn't do anything wrong. And that's a really tricky performance to navigate, but Adam Driver definitely pulled it off. Adam Driver is also just slowly becoming one of my favorite actors of all time because he just blends into all of his roles so well, and you can tell he's always bringing 100% to the table. The most effective thing about this movie's setting though is how the setting and story works from so many angles. Because you might be thinking, oh, this is a movie that's set in medieval France, you know, with knights and kings and whatever. How would this be applicable to modern day? This kind of stuff would never happen nowadays, yet it does, all the time and always has. The realization of a story of this magnitude being told that is set in the medieval ages hundreds of years ago, yet is still so applicable to modern day, that's what really hammers home how fucking awful our treatment towards women and all victims of abuse of any nature has been. But yeah, The Last Duel was a very compelling and hauntingly real and relevant film that I think more people should definitely be watching. So The Last Duel gets a 8.5 out of 10 for me. It's really unique as it's a story from so far in the past, yet it also works as an allegory for modern society at the same time. Also, last minute honorable mention to Ben Affleck as Count Pierre, who I forgot to mention. He was just like the most egregious character, but the way Affleck played him was just quite over the top and hilarious that it actually worked. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like below and subscribe for more content. Also, don't be afraid to leave a comment below about anything. I love reading what you guys have to say, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.